Hello, in this video I'm going to walk you through explicit ProxySG authentication using Iowa Direct and how the different surrogate options behave and what the proxy does. So first of all, let's review the config. I've got this realm here that I called Windows Authentication. The proxy is joined to the domain. I have disabled NTLM credentials and Kerberos for the simplicity's sake. For this demo, I'm sticking with the basic directive of proxy authorization header, which means that I'm going to be taking the username :password string and encode it with base64 and provide that to the proxy. When it comes to the surrogate timings, I use the default values. Now for the first test, I'm actually not going to be using any surrogate, or shall I say the TCP socket or the session is going to be the surrogate, because I've got this set to auto. In explicit proxy, auto is going to mean proxy, and proxy means the time of the session. So you make a new TCP socket to the proxy, either a HTTP GET, PUT, POST, so on, or a connect if it is something other than HTTP, and the proxy is going to authenticate you, and as long as that session is active, the proxy is not going to authenticate you again. So I also, because I'm going to be using the connect and HTTPS with full SSL interception, not just on exception, as you can see somewhere down here, I think I've got SSL interception. I'm not sure what's going on with the page here. Let's do this. Let's install, and then here is our table. Okay, I don't. So in this case, what the proxy is going to do, because protocol detection on the service is enabled, the proxy is still going to do SSL interception on exception when it serves the 407 and needs to serve the HTML page. So here is my authentication. Here, ignore the first rule. I'm not going to be using that user. We're not going to match it. We're going to be matching this allow rule. Now let's go. So here I've got SSL log tail and main log tail, just to show you where the username field appears and how it appears. So we are ready to run our test. Here I've got, I'm going to comment these two out. We're going to run this test and this test first. You can ignore this. These are my test credentials. This one is admin :password 1. This one is admin 2. No, sorry. This one is demo :password 1, and this one is demo 2 :password 1. So, and this is a bogus, credentials that don't exist. So these are valid in my lab. This one does not exist. This is admin :admin. So let's run the test with these two. First of all, I'm going to go and start the packet capture. I am filtering on to my proxy 55 and the display filter of HTTP. I run this test. Okay. I'm going to stop the packet capture. First thing that I'm going to show you is the access logs, because they will be lost. So we have made two calls. Here is the first one, connect example.com. Okay. And this is the second one. Now notice the difference here. No user on the first one, user on the second one. And if I go here, I've got only one, and that one has got the CS-username field, this one here, set to value bad credentials. So what has happened here? The packet capture tells us more. I need to go here and let's look at this packet capture. So let's look at the first call. I am doing the decryption in my Wireshark using the SSL keylog file user and environmental variable. So here is the connect. Notice that I didn't get 407. The proxy didn't serve the 407. And that's not because I had a surrogate. It is because I have incorrectly, but on purpose, provided to the proxy a UTF-8 encoded string of unknown rather than a base64 encoded string. So in this case, what the proxy does, it comes back with 200 OK. The client sends the client hello, start of handshake, SSL handshake done. Inside that encrypted SSL, well now decrypted session, the client sends the GET request. But here is where the proxy then replied with 400 baud request. And here is the exception page from the proxy, invalid username and password. So don't get alarmed. It is possible that the proxy doesn't come back with 407 if the credentials are not valid. If they're not encoded right, the proxy will come back with 200 OK, but the connection is still denied. It was replaced. The content was replaced with exception page from the proxy, and that's it. That's the end journey for the user. If you look at the second one though, in the second one I have correctly base64 encoded the credentials, but bogus credentials that don't exist on my domain controller, so the proxy could not validate them, and the proxy came back with 407 proxy authentication required, and that's the end. So if we go back to the access logs, keeping in mind what we just said, the first transaction no user because it wasn't base64 encoded. However, we get this in SSL log, we get bad credentials. And in the contrary here, we get a user of admin. So the proxy did decode that user, but it's a bogus user. And we got nothing in SSL log. We're going to now move on to another test, a different test. So I'm going to restart the packet capture, and I am going to go back in here, and this time we don't need these two, we're going to run these two. And what we're also going to do, so we're now going to run a different use case, and that use case is where we set a surrogate. We set the surrogate to proxy IP. So the configuration we have now tells the proxy to maintain a table of client IP address that hits the real proxy on the interface where the listener is, and the user, the authenticated user, and cache that for 15 minutes. The 15 minutes is what I showed in my config at the start. It can be, of course, customized to whatever time you want. If I go here, right, there's nobody. So let me log these two users out for now, so we don't have them. They're logged out. Okay, now I am going to go here and I'm going to run this. So what could look strange here, of course, is that, well, if nobody was authenticated at the start, from the IP address of this PC, which you see here, 10.10.10.150. Why didn't the proxy come back with 407 here? I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to go to the first example.com, which is this one here. So as you can see, the proxy didn't come back with 407 here to disconnect because I already provided base64 encoded credentials. So the proxy came back with 200 OK. And the user got authenticated. If we do a refresh here, we can see that we've got now a user. Did I log out that user? If I do a refresh here, I think I might have lost it. I might have to run it again. Let's run it again. So let's run this loop just once. That should do. And if I do refresh here and refresh here, so I now see the demo because they were both encoded correctly. You can see them in the main log. That's demo and demo 2. And I am also seeing them here. Demo. I don't see the demo 2. I probably only just missed it. So let's rerun that again. Let's run the loop actually more than once. Okay, that should be plenty. And if I do it now, there you go. And I've got demo, demo, demo to demo, demo to demo, right? They appear in both logs because they are correctly encoded. Now, I've got a surrogate. So the question is why, if I go, oh, I did do a logout, that's why I lost that user. So let me open this again. And okay, if I've got surrogate for 50 minutes, why do I have got 2 users here rather than 1? If there is a surrogate for this IP, we would logically assume that there should only be 1 user. However, because that would only be the case if all of the requests hitting the proxy were first without the proxy authorization header. And if that's the case, then the proxy would issue the 407. Whichever is the first connection would authenticate, and that's the one that we would see then here for 50 minutes. But because that's not my case, my code doesn't really follow what the browser does, where the browser first sends a connect without the authorization header, because it doesn't know whether the proxy is going to challenge it. It waits for the proxy to challenge it with 407. And only after that, the second round, it then sends a new session, a new connect with the proxy authorization header. So that would be the only way when I would see 1 here. But because, again, that's not what I'm doing. If we review my code here, so normally the browser would send this without this line on the connect. It then would get the 407, send the next connect with this. Then it would wrap it with SSL, and then it will send the get. But that's not what I'm doing. I am including that, and that's why the proxy is coming back with 200 OK, and that's why we see multiple users in the IP to user mapping table. Where in the real world would you be doing this? Well, this would never happen in any browser, in a major enterprise level browsers, Chrome, Edge, even Firefox. It would happen with any applications, things like GitHub, AWS client, curl, API calls, so on, where the admin was told on the implementation that this will be going via proxy, or we have to authenticate, and the admin would do exactly what I did here. The credentials would be hard-coded into some config file, and they would be injected into the connect on the first connect, basically. And then we would see this behavior where we get 200 OK without any challenge. And we would then see a whole list of users sitting behind the same IP address, even though you've got IP surrogate and all of the request comes from the same IP. And that concludes the demo. Thank you.